How you doing, wrestling fans? And welcome back to another edition of John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast. We've been off the air for a couple of weeks over the Thanksgiving break. I want to remind everybody we are the only podcast that brings you back 30 years with vintage audio, featuring some of the biggest names of that time. This show is no exception. The Pro Wrestling Spotlight covered all the news and breaking developments that happened in real time, and now we get to relive those moments right here on this podcast. Today, we're going to review show number 254 of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, which aired on 1240 AM WGBB in West Babylon, New York, on October the 30th, 1994. The special guest from all those years ago included Too Cold Scorpio and none other than Paul E. Dangerously from ECW. And I want to thank everybody who's stayed with us on our Patreon account, patreon.com/John Arezzi. More content being released this Sunday. So thank you for sticking with us. $5 a month gets you in the door. You get the entire archives of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, other levels to take a look at that give you even more exclusive content. Once again, patreon.com/John Arezzi. It is my pleasure to bring back on our producer, our creative director, my friend, Andy Kaufman aficionado. Let us bring on Marsh.
Heyo.
Heyo. I missed that, Marsh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to be back. It was nice taking a little bit of a break, but it's good.
Well, Christmas is around the corner, so we're going to do it again.
Yeah, you can never have too many breaks.
No, we'll probably have 3 shows before we take the Christmas break, a couple of weeks off for Christmas. And, as we dwindle down with as many shows as we have left to review, which is really not that many, we're looking at, another 6 or 8 of them here. So a little break is not going to hurt anyone. We'll get through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, about 8 shows. So still a couple months left.
Yeah, and it gives us a little bit of time in between to kind of spitball what's next.
We're spitballing all the time on what are we going to do next? What does it look like? And I want to thank everybody who joined our last Zoom Patreon get together. Great conversation. We bantered and spitball some ideas out, and so I want to thank everybody again. We'll do another one before the Christmas break so we can get together with everyone, and we're going to bring Anthony Pyrus back on and Joe Holloway as our Patreon executive producers. And also, this is kind of a milestone with this incarnation of Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast. It is episode number 100 since I left the Arcadian Vanguard network, or was asked to leave.
Amicably.
I didn't do that on my own volition, but I was shown the door.
You've been thrown out of plenty of places, John.
I have been thrown out of places, and it's just part of the world. I just got thrown out of my Gibby Show podcast.
Yeah, it's just the revolving door of John Arezzi.
But that is actually, let's go. We'll go over that first, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff. But my dear friend John Gibbons, who I've known for 42 years, met him when I was a minor league baseball executive for the New York Mets, and Gibby was the first round draft pick. So we go back many, many years. We worked together on the book deal. We got the podcast going. It's still number 1 in Canada. Like we're number 1. I mean, it's been that way for the last few weeks. We never get past the number 5 slot. But anyway, John Gibbons has been hired by the New York Mets, and I am so happy for him. It happened. The Mets hired a new manager by the name of Carlos Mendoza, rookie manager. He was the Yankees bench coach for 4 years under Aaron Boone there. Well-liked guy. The new owner, the new general manager of the Mets, David Stearns, wanted to bring his own guy in. They fired Buck Showalter, and they brought in Carlos Mendoza. And part of the strategy was to bring in an experienced major league manager to sit beside him in the dugout, to be his bench coach, his right-hand guy, and they had 3 names on a short list. Willie Randolph, who was a former Mets manager, Phil Nevin, who was another former manager, and John Gibbons, who was 10 years managing with the Toronto Blue Jays, and also not only started his career with the Mets, played on the '84 team in the major leagues. He got injured. He was supposed to be the starting catcher. Injury bug hit him. They go out and they trade for Gary Carter in the beginning of the '85 season. So there goes Gibby's career as a prominent member of that team. He did have time with the 1986 World Championship team. He got a World Series ring. Spent a couple of months there, and then eventually, quit as a player and went back to the Mets in the early '90s to be a roving catching coach, traveling to all their minor league teams, and then he started managing some of their minor league teams, and he worked his way up from single A, double A, triple A, and spent several years in that organization, and then went to the Toronto Blue Jays, also as a coach initially, got to be first base coach, managed them 2 different stints, 10 years, and became a beloved figure there in Canada. So Gibby basically got the job, and the Mets told him, you got to stop the podcast because now you're part of the New York Mets organization and we can't have you talking about other teams. And of course, that was it. You had to do it. And believe me, for me, and I told him on our last, our last show together was taped this past Monday, and it's out there on YouTube. Just look for the Gibby Show, and it was a very emotional show for me and for him. And we just talked about our history and what this means for him. And he couldn't say officially because the Mets had not made the official announcement. It wasn't made officially until just yesterday. So he's part of the team now. And what that does for me, with our sponsors being Miller Lite and Tim Hortons, major sponsors, I'm going to continue the podcast for the remainder of December. And that's when our agreements are done with Miller Lite and with Tim Hortons. And we're simply going to do some best ofs. So I'm pulling clips from the 2 seasons that we did the show. And I'll also be covering the news. The baseball winter meetings are here in Nashville, so I'll be going to that. There'll be trades, there'll be free agent signings, and we'll bring on some baseball insiders to talk about what's going on with the Blue Jays and the trades and all the free agent stuff. And then we'll close it out. The Gibby Show will be no more the last week of December. So it's kind of bittersweet. As I told John on the show, it's really kind of a dream come true for me, for you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. He's going to be right there in the mix, and he's back in the majors. And his book is still #1 in Canada as well. So it's really a cool thing for him. And he's back with the team that signed him, and he's back with the team that also has always been my favorite team. So it'll be an exciting 2024 for Gibby and for the Mets, and I probably could get some free tickets too.
Well, now more than ever, we got to go to Petco.
Yes, that would be very cool. I want to go see that park for sure.
Yeah. So
and as a Met, he's going to go up and play the Blue Jays September 9th, 10th, and 11th in 2024. So I'm definitely going to go up there for that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's kind of cool. So anyway, that's kind of that was the breaking stuff that happened over our break, and it's like I said, it's bittersweet, but I'm happy for Gibby, and I think that he's going to do a fabulous job assisting and being on that bench for every game, helping out Carlos Mendoza. Good luck to my dear friend John Gibbons.
From the outside looking in, it feels like though that like solidifies that the podcast was a success, because it feels like that. I mean, he was writing the book already. We know that, but it feels like that was so successful that I don't think that hurt him getting where he got.
No,
you know
I
mean?
think
I think that helped.
I think because of his experience and the fact that he kind of wanted to toss his name into the ring for the new manager's job, but they were looking for somebody that was kind of a, how do I position this? It just wasn't the right slot for him because they had their sights set on Carlos Mendoza, and they interviewed a few other guys as well. But to bring in an experienced manager to sit alongside this rookie manager who was also familiar with New York because he worked as the bench coach for the Yankees for so many years, knows the market, knows the media, and to have a guy like Gibby who speaks his mind, is gritty and a little old school, it's going to be a great dynamic between the two and the other new coaches that they brought aboard. It's going to be an exciting 2024 baseball season for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So other than that, what I've been doing is I actually went to Monday Night Raw here in Nashville this week for the return of CM Punk. And I have to tell you, and we do chat a little bit about current wrestling. There really is no comparison between WWE and AEW. There really isn't. I mean, the pop that CM Punk got, first of all, at the pay-per-view, at Survivor Series, when he came out, I have not heard a pop like that. Could be in 20 years, maybe. It was bigger than Cody got. The place went nuts. It was Chicago, of course. But here in Nashville, the crowd was so hot for the entire show. I mean, people were just ramped up for it. And, of course, Randy Orton made his return. And I was looking, I was like, with all the money that Tony Khan has, there's still no comparison. It's like he's a kid with his dad's dough spending crazily, but he can't control the creative, and he can't control. I mean, he's lost a lot of guys. I mean, it's just kind of like you feel bad in a way, but when you look at the two different promotions, there's no comparison, man.
I mean, I feel the same way. Did you feel, out of curiosity, watching it, and I was going to ask you because you were there live, there was a lot of instances when Punk was giving that promo where the audience was really quiet and not really responding. Did you feel like they were just kind of leaning in, listening to everything did he say, or was it a mixed crowd?
To be honest with you, the promo kind of sounded a little reminiscent of when he came back to AEW, right?
Yeah.
And I think the anticipation was there maybe for something bigger to happen. And when it wasn't, and there wasn't a run-in or there wasn't an immediate potential storyline, I think the crowd, it got the wind taken out of their sails a little bit. Because he came out, it was a pop. His name was being chanted before the show started, and when the graphic went up that he was going to be returning to Raw, the crowd went wild. But it was kind of anticlimactic in that last segment when he did finally come out, and there wasn't anything to really juice the crowd up again.
Yeah.
Other than he's here to make money, not friends. I mean, so there was just a lot of that. We'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I think now that he's there, we'll see. But I mean, it was a coup that a lot of people didn't expect. There were rumors for weeks, but no one ever thought he's not going back there. They're not going to want him back. And lo and behold, look, the smart business move that was, I believe, Nick Khan's final decision with Triple H supporting it, not Vince.
Yeah.
He's back.
Yeah, it is wild. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays through. And, for better or for worse, this is CM Punk's last big chance to go out the way he wants to.
It is. It's his very last chance. And bring back AJ. That's all I can say.
Oh, yeah. She's so great. And I love her song. I want to hear that song again.
And her skipping to the ring.
Yes.
The little Daisy Dukes.
Yeah, let's get AJ Lee versus Bailey.
Yes. Or,
let's move it.
Becky Lynch. I mean, there's some good storylines there.
Oh yeah, there's stuff to be had for sure. But yeah, you were there. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was you had a fun time.
I had a really fun time. My attorney, who's kind of a big shot music business lawyer, dear friend, I actually spent Thanksgiving with his family. I didn't go to New York. And he said, listen, because he represents so many people. So he had access to a luxury suite with food and drink and all that. He goes, you want to come to Monday Night Raw? And I'm like, yes, I'd love that. So we went, and it was, it was great. It was a lot of fun. The only thing that was a little annoying to him and me both was there was a young kid who was there in the suite, and all he was screaming like the entire night was, hit him with a chair, get a chair, get a chair. Like every few seconds, he just wanted to see someone get hit with a chair. And he was so obnoxious. He must have been about 8 years old or 9 years old. And his mother, was sitting there with him, and she wasn't calming him down at all. It got to the point towards the middle of the show where the suite next to us that was filled with people from another company, every time the kid yelled out, hit him with a chair, they repeat what the kid said, like a group of them.
Yeah.
So the kid thought he was going over, but they were just making fun of him. So it was fun. I did a lot of people watching. I enjoyed it. Raw is what it is. But just the atmosphere and the electricity of the crowd, and even to be there for CM Punk's return, really.
Yeah, it's historic.
And Randy Orton, it was a very emotional to see him finally come back after the back surgery, and it was a fun night. It was a fun night. So we'll see where they go with Punk.
So you're a journalist, John. Give me the dirt. Were they piping in noise? Did they pipe in the booze for Dom?
No, I didn't
pipe
hear
in all those
CM
Punk champs.
No.
All right, well, you said it. Heard it here first.
Because I got a couple people on social media that asked me that too. Did they pipe in the booze for Dominic? And I was like, I don't. Unless I'm fucking tone deaf or deaf, it didn't seem that way to me.
Right?
Did it seem that way on TV? Did it look canned?
It doesn't to me, but I think that there's a big contingent of audiences, of the audience in general, and the hate watch audience too, that feels like there's just no way anyone can elicit these reactions the way that they do so fully. But I've been in the arena too. I was actually in a suite the last SmackDown I went to, and there's a difference between when you hear the sound come up from the bottom of the bowl versus coming down from the speakers, right? And I think people are just thinking it's coming out of the speakers because the way it's mic'd, it's all picking up the whole room. But when you're in the room, you hear it come up. You don't hear it come down. You know what I mean? So
I didn't. I have a fairly good ear, and I know what's being piped through a speaker system.
Yeah,
I didn't even get a hint of that being there live.
Yeah, me neither. But people say it, so I just wanted you to address it. You're my journalist.
Yeah, maybe it's the Crown Royal I was drinking that maybe I didn't hear properly, but I don't think so.
That's awesome. That's cool, though. It was a good time. Did you see Dixie Carter was there?
I did see that Dixie Carter was there. And me and my attorney both were, because he's known her since she was a publicist here in Nashville in the music biz.
Yeah.
Dear friends with her. And she's still, I mean, she's a beautiful woman. She really is. She's done some incredible things in the music business, and of course the wrestling stuff. But I've always been a fan of Dixie's.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with her. I thought it was neat she was there. I thought it also looked like that Bruce got her in.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, she's well respected in town here. To the wrestling audiences, maybe it's a different scenario. Because she was a woman with a lot of money, wanted to get into wrestling, and then she was kind of overcome by the cliques of Hogan, and that kind of destroyed what they were building there when he came in. But Dixie always treated me good, and this is a story in my book. When they first started TNA, her and Jeff Jarrett came to meet with the network, because I was the guy in the Nashville office, and they came to pitch the TV show to me, and I use the name John Alexander, and I didn't tell them I was John Arezzi in the wrestling business. I had them sit down, gave me the pitch, and they had Toby Keith at the time also involved, who was a country music superstar, and I pitched it to the powers that be above me in Denver, Colorado. They weren't into it. They didn't think it was a good programming thing, so we couldn't take the show. It would have been nice, but especially. But anyway, I got to know her that way, and we developed a friendship, and that's when any show that they ran here in Nashville, I take my nephew to, and we get backstage, and then finally I seen her on an airplane, and that's the infamous night that Bubba Ray Dudley choked me on TV.
Yeah.
But I love Dixie. I was sitting next to her that night. I love Dixie's cool. And her husband Sturge and everyone else. Good girl.
Yeah. I knew you didn't have any issues with her, and that's why I asked. Because I actually thought because you were there with somebody who had the suite, I was wondering if you ended up wandering and seeing or meeting up with anybody at all after that or anything. So it was cool, man. I love going to their live shows. I feel like their star power is so big right now. You can't miss it. You cannot miss it when they're in town.
That's very true. You really can't.
No.
What? And then just the MJF thing before we go to talk about 1994. He's injured right now. He's got because I haven't followed that too much. And was he backstage with was there a picture of him and Triple H together recently, or?
I think I saw a photoshopped one. I don't know if
it's
I saw a
photoshopped.
legit
It
one.
wasn't real. Okay, so it's like,
as far as I know,
it's like the evils of the internet and Photoshop and
I know.
and AI. So anyway, that's a big decision for MJF after the first of the year. But I have a feeling he's going to stay where he is. But who knows? Who knows?
At this point, so much is possible because the one thing that would never happen was CM Punk would never return, and he's returned.
Yes, it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through real quick, and I do not see MJF as backstage.
Okay, so that was just kind of a phony.
I think you got worked, dude.
It's fake news.
You got worked.
It won't be the first time.
Be honest. That's my favorite part about wrestling is getting worked.
Oh yeah,
Still love it. Because especially when you think you're so smart and stuff, like there's just no way, and then something else happens and you realize you were got.
Yeah,
that's my favorite feeling when you're like, oh, they drew me in so hard, I got. That's good.
Interesting business. Well, what happened? What happened 30? What happened 29 years ago here?
20 years ago,
29.
Ric Flair at his very last match had retired only to go backstage from then on out, from then forward. And we know that stuck forever.
No, it wasn't forever. He's still out there creating havoc, right? He's still, telling girls to what.
Where's hotel is.
He's gonna get in trouble for something else that may or may not air this week on AEW. But
anyway,
he was supposed to go, but he didn't. He came back several monthts later, 5 months or whatever it was.
And this is 29 years prior to Woo Energy drink too. So we know there's business to come. Let's take a listen to how you open the show, though.
Okay, let's go back to what's the date on this thing? It was October 30th, 1994. Let's hear how it started.
And back for another week right here at Pro Wrestling Spotlight. How you doing, wrestling fans? John Arezzi here for Pro Wrestling Spotlight. And last week, Halloween Havoc. Now history. Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, officially retired for the time being, and the big angle that took place in the main event, Hulk Hogan against Ric Flair. Brother Brutai was revealed to be the man behind the mask, and he came in with Avalanche, formerly known as Earthquake in the WWF, and also the evil genius Kevin Sullivan. Now all three of them being called the Three Faces of Evil, and that is the next big challenge for the now sole guy at the top of WCW, Hulk Hogan. Ric Flair now behind the scenes only. So, we'll take your calls and we'll ask you what you thought of what you saw last week. But where does WCW go from here? What happens now? What happens to the buy rates? Last week's buy rate, a little bit less than they anticipated. The initial reports saying the buy rate came in at a 1.4. Still very well, and the best that WCW's done. But where do we go from here? I tell you where we go, and that is focusing the attention to next Sunday, which is, in my opinion, will be the best pay-per-view of the year here in the United States. I'm referring to International Wrestling Council in conjunction with the AAA of Mexico, working with WCW to promote When Worlds Collide, the big pay-per-view.
From one thing, just that's it. Go right to the next.
Yeah, just move right through. But I mean, in your defense, you weren't going to have Donnie Liable on. You were about to get Too Cold Scorpio on right away, and you thought you were going to have back-to-back with Heyman.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to run through the hot stuff to get going,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's certainly looking forward to the pay-per-view that was going to take place the following week, and the fact that all the hype for the Flair Hogan deal, and then as more details started to emerge, and you realize that, all right, he's not really being pushed out. He's just going to go away for a little bit and come back anyway. So it was kind of anticlimactic there as well.
Yeah. I like that you were really pushing the AAA show coming up.
Yes. It was a great show, and we get the chance to talk about that for the next couple weeks.
Perfect. Three Faces of Evil sounded awesome. I don't remember them together, but sounded cool. And then and then of course what happens now with WCW, because now that's officially shifting into the Hogan era.
It is. Brother Brutai.
Who was revealed as the masked man that you guys had said would make no sense.
Right.
So, yeah. You do, let's see, you're talking about Too Cold coming on. He's in a feud with Matt Bourne, who you talk about like 3 times in this, that he is your absolute favorite wrestler.
Oh, yes. My favorite. It was short-lived over there.
Was part of it how he had won you over as Doink, and how he transitioned the Doink into the Born Again?
Yes.
As like a carryover?
Yes. What Paulie was doing with the character on ECW, it was a great transition from the evil clown in the WWF, and then, leaving there, getting fired, showing up at ECW, getting destroyed as soon as he walked through the curtain at ECW for the first time, but then the evolution that Paulie really had this long-term plan for him, but Bourne, which we'll discuss, I don't know if it's next week or the week after or whatever, he kind of blew it and got fired.
Yeah. That'll be exciting when you cover it.
But he was my favorite.
Yeah. Dude, you loved him. You even started your interview with Too Cold Scorpio. You're trying to introduce Scorpio, and you spent the first almost minute talking about how he's currently feuding with Matt Osborne, which is your favorite thing in wrestling right now. What Matt Osborne is doing is fantastic. This Born Again gimmick, you have to see, don't miss it. And I was like, is he introducing Bourne?
That would have been fun.
Yeah. But you get in with Too Cold, and you ask him about working with ECW, WCW. You talked about how he got into wrestling to begin with. It was really funny, too. You ask him, were you into sports beforehand? He said, no, I just played football, basketball, and track in high school. And you're like,
so wasn't into sports at all.
I was like, you did all of them. What are you talking about? And he listed off some of his favorite wrestlers growing up as Bobo Brazil, Superfly, Greg Gagne, Jim Brunzell, Fez, and the Funks. I just thought it was cool, but the clips I pulled here was you asked him specifically about his friendship with Leon White, and I thought this was really cool because it's not something I'd heard of before. I hadn't really thought of them as pals, but they were close.
Yeah.
Okay, and did it one time you develop a friendship with Leon White?
Yes, I have. We was doing a show there in town, and Leon just happened to be back from Europe, and somebody just happened to get a hold of him to headline a card. And he got in there and just saying that he really enjoyed my style of work, that he think I would have a good opportunity of going to Japan.
Uh-huh.
And from there, we always been tight, and just kind of took off from there.
Well, Leon White, who's known as Vader and throughout the world, and is certainly one of the best out there today internationally. I'm sure that for someone like that to take you under his wing and to help you out a little bit, you certainly must be appreciative for him for the help that he's given you.
Yeah, it is and stuff. I mean, because I've often heard, in up and coming years and stuff about so much stuff about Leon, but the only thing I can say about him is, he's always took care of me from day one, and I really appreciate him for that.
When did you first go to Japan? When was your first tour there?
My first tour to Japan was like in 1990, 91. And it was 3 weeks in the junior tournament, and we was down in Okinawa, Japan.
And your first national exposure, I guess, came when you had a working relationship with WCW.
Exactly.
Was Leon instrumental in getting you in WCW also?
Yes, he was and stuff. Like I said, he was the one who got me over to Japan, as well as the one who got me down there in WCW. When I was down in Mexico working, he had called me up and said that everything was good, that before long I would be down there, and next thing I know, they was calling.
Well, I tell you, when I first saw you, I was first exposed to your performances in the ring was in WCW, and I always, when I watched WCW or WWF, the two big national promotions, so to speak, I always look for up-and-coming talent, or the talent that I think has real good potential, especially to try to evolve this business into the 90s. And I tell you, when I first saw you in the ring, I was saying, well, this guy right here is going to be a star. If he's not a star already, he's definitely going to be a star in this business, because just some of the things that you did really, really just impressed not only the fans, but as far as people like myself who have been following the business for many years. Your style of wrestling, how did you acquire that particular high-flying style that you're now famous for?
Actually, my style of wrestling, people often wonder and stuff, if I take classes or whatever, but my style of wrestling is something that I've always been doing. It was something that came natural to me. My style of wrestling, unfortunately, when I first started doing it, I didn't really know that was the style that they was doing in Japan and Mexico. And so that the style that I do, it fit right in with everything else that was going on. With my trips going to Japan and Mexico was just enough to sharpen up my skills that I already had.
Yeah. Tell me about your time in WCW. Was it an enjoyable time period for you?
To me, going out, it was always enjoyable to me, because if I go out and the fans were satisfied and the fans got what they was looking for and stuff, then I've always felt like I went out and did my job right and stuff, So, I mean, but as far as the overall business itself, dealing with a lot of the politics and stuff that go on, a lot of that can kind of get you down.
Yeah. Well, that's situations that you hear in WCW, a lot of politics involved in who gets the push in the organization, who gets put on top, and did you run into a lot of problems that way? As far as, did you feel that you should have been elevated to a higher level in the company?
Yes, I do. And so I thought I should have been at a lot higher, level than what I was at. I thought I should have been right up there around, a lot of the other top dogs, right in the running for some of the championship belts and stuff like that. But then again, just like you say, it's politics and it's all these sides. What you got to remember about the WCW is it's basically a family organization. So, if you ain't really in the clique or really in the family stuff, then that's really something that you got to worry about.
Yeah, it seems to be that all the people that have been running the creative end of it, there always has been a clique that they bring the same guys in time and time again. It happened with Dusty Rhodes when he was booking there. It happens, I guess, with the Ric Flair clique. And now the unofficial booker, so to speak, of WCW has certainly become Hulk Hogan. And that, to me, is very disturbing. As a wrestling fan, I guess I call myself a fan, as well as a reporter, as well as someone who's promoted my own shows overseas, because I just see that, I don't know if you agree with me or not on this, but it seems that WCW now, the direction they're taking is not to develop here in this country. It's something that's going back into the past rather than the future, with the guys like Honky Tonk Man coming in and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and just the whole Hulk Hogan way now of developing the scenarios that are happening there with Earthquake now coming in, it just seems to be going backwards, not forwards. That's my personal opinion. I like to see what you think about that.
Oh yeah, as far as my opinion, I kind of felt the same way and stuff. The thing, that the way that I feel is there's so much young talent out there nowadays that's up and coming stars and stuff. And if they take the time, that was invested in them when they first got into business, 20, 25 years ago and was up and coming. When they first got into the business, they was a couple of nobodies. Somebody made them a star. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't really recognizing themselves. And I really think, as far as going back, and bringing up a lot of the old names, I mean, it's good because a lot of people know them. But if you're talking about trying as far as keeping up with the 90s and what's going on with the style of wrestling, then you got to move on.
Yes.
I like that segment.
Yeah, he's keen,
Mm-hmm.
and really well spoken. I just don't see a lot of interviews from him, so I just didn't know what to expect out of it. But he was very direct.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of pry a little bit and get his opinions and really kind of shooting rather than just kind of like talking about an ECW storyline or whatever. And I'm really, when I listen back to it now, I'm kind of pleased with the direction of it so far.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Do you mention after this too? You ask about how he got involved with the ECW and Ron Scholar, and he just kind of mentioned that the timing was kind of just right, and you'd mentioned that he had left WCW in kind of a controversial situation, but you didn't mention what it was, and I don't remember catching it before. Do you remember what it was?
I don't recall.
Yeah, because I don't remember hearing it on the way up to this, but it was like, hey, you left with them controversially, because you asked if there's any heat backstage or that he could tell from the WCW side about him being involved in this Worlds Collide coming up.
Yeah.
And he said no. So
interesting.
Couldn't have been that controversial.
Well, was it a drug thing? Did he? I don't know. I don't even recall, to be honest.
Yeah, nothing like stood out to me. So, but yeah, his voice. There was a while where he sounds a lot like Bobby Lashley. Like, they have a very similar voice, like speech pattern, and yeah. But I mean, and they're both awesome. So
yeah. But I generally liked the dude. I mean, when I first saw him in WCW, I just felt that he had that it factor, and he was doing moves that really had not been seen before. Some of the high flying stuff that he did, and the somersaults, and I mean, he was just kind of like, he was dynamic. His ring presentation was dynamic.
I know a lot of people have not been kind to the Flash Funk gimmick that he had.
Yeah. I wasn't a fan of that either.
Right. But like I said before, I didn't grow up with the other stuff. I grew up with WWF.
Yeah.
I thought he was so good. Even as Flash Funk. He was another one who kind of superseded the gimmick itself. Like, you almost kind of didn't care that he came out dancing disco just because you knew this match was about to be awesome.
Yeah, the ring work was always top notch.
Yeah. And I was too young to know the difference, right? The work rate concept didn't really occur to me. Right. Does this guy work well? Does he have good fundamentals? It didn't mean anything to me, right? But watching a guy dance out to the ring, it's like, oh, that's a cool hat. And then when he wrestles, you're just like, this is exciting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, all I knew was that I loved him no matter what he was wearing,
That's a great perspective, because he was very dynamic, as I said.
Yeah. He had a charisma. It's a shame he didn't get much higher than he ever did, because I think that, I don't know anyone's said anything bad about him ever. I've never even heard someone say, yeah, not for me.
No, I haven't heard that. Even back in the day, he was not somebody that was disliked at all. Mm-hmm. He was kind of cool. He was a cool dude.
Yeah. And you got to hang out with him backstage. Was he just the same kind of chill backstage?
Yeah. Very cool guy. Yeah.
That's awesome. He takes callers, which is great. He does a couple segments with callers. And we have some of that. You put over and over again about ECW. And then in between
nauseam. Yeah.
So
good. It was a shill.
You loved it. Yeah, and you're even talking about getting the videotapes, talking about how you're just staying up all night watching them. You talked about that over and over again. It was great, man. You couldn't put it over enough. So you did get a few callers. Eric from Massapequa was asking Too Cold what he thought about teaming with Mark Bagwell. And he said he was good. He just wanted Bagwell to apply himself a little bit more. But are you annoyed that he's got like a higher spot on the card now? He's like, no. He's like, I'm happy for the guy. Like, it was interesting. And he asked if he would ever go to WWF, and he said if the money was right, but he's never been in contact with the WWF. So I have here a call that begins. You take another call, and then you go back to the original caller.
Oh, that's odd.
Yes.
This is your opportunity to speak with one of the highest flyers in wrestling today, one of the greatest wrestlers competing internationally, Too Cold Scorpio. We'll go to Long Beach, Long Island, and speak to David.
Hello?
Yes, David, you're next.
This is David from Long Beach. Oh, can you speak a little louder?
Can we speak louder?
What?
Can you hear
wait
us?
a minute. Can I? Okay.
You're on the air. You ask.
Wait just a second, John.
Why don't we put you on? We'll put you on hold, and then we'll get back to you. Okay? Turn your radio down, and we will get back to him. Put him on hold, and we'll take his call. After we go next to Belmore, Long Island, and speak to Brian. Brian, you're next.
Hey, what's up, John?
How you doing?
How you doing, Too Cold?
All right, I'm in the house. How you?
I'm great, man. It's an honor to talk to you. I remember the first time I saw you wrestle at the Clash of Champions against Johnny Cole or whatever he was called then. And, man, when I first saw your style, that was like the awesomest wrestling. And I'm 14 years old, and I've been following wrestling ever since I was born. My dad got me into wrestling, and I've wanted to be a professional wrestler for a long time. And I just wanted to know, what does it take to develop a tremendous skill like that? Like, how much dedication have you put into the sport of wrestling? I heard you say how you got into it. What did it take to be able to do this, like, area moves?
A lot of the area moves and tactics that I do, a lot of it came pretty much naturally when I was younger. So I used to jump on the trampoline, and a lot of that natural ability just kind of stuck with me. But the time that it takes, man, it really takes the dedication and the time for you to get in the gym and want to work hard and make them long trips. Because, like I said, wrestling ain't what it all cut out to be. I mean, when I first got into it, man, it was those $20 and $15 and $30 nights, and sometimes you didn't get paid. You know, so it's all a matter of sticking it out, you know, and being at the right place at the right time.
And John, I just wanted to know one thing. I'm getting this pay-per-view next week, but is there going to be any titles or anything, or is it just going to be straight wrestling?
There'll be no titles on the line. But believe me, you don't need it. For this particular style of wrestling, you're not going to need titles. Even though no championships are on the line, the grudge match in the main event in the cage, Conan against Perro Aguayo, you have hair versus mask matches. It's going to be the most thrilling wrestling you've ever seen.
And may I say on that, John, and stuff, for most people who don't really understand the Mexican style of matches, when you have a mask versus mask or mask versus hair match in Mexico, those are basically like title type matches.
Yes.
It's a disgrace to lose your mask, and it's also a disgrace if you have long hair to get it cut or to lose it in the ring. So down there, it's a real big thing and stuff. So, I mean, usually when you have those type of matches, I mean, you turn out to have real good matches.
All right, and Too Cold, like I said, I want to be a pro wrestler, and it would truly be an honor if I'd be able to get the chance to work with you in the future.
Well, man, hopefully someplace on down the line, man, we'll get a chance to meet, and I can give you a little bit more of that advice about, you know, what I did and stuff. Like I say, it ain't like if I can really put a word into each any of the organizations that's going on out there, because I ain't got the kind of pull that some of the other people got. But you hang in there, man, and keep the faith, man, and one day you'll be there.
All right, thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks for your call, and good luck to you. We're going to go back to David from Long Beach now. And, David, are you ready to go yet?
Yes, I'm ready now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I have 2 questions for Too Cold.
All righty.
Okay, first question is, who was your favorite tag team partner, and what do you think of the other high flyers in the business?
Oh, like I say, my favorite tag team partner, I said there would have to be 2 that I really thought that I worked out well with. That would have to be either Ron Simmons and Chris Benoit.
Okay. I've seen one of your matches against Chris Benoit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you weren't very well scared, okay?
Thank you.
The Super Bowl 3 match. Okay.
And
what was the other question?
Okay, what do you think of the other high flyers in the business?
Like I said, there's so much great talent out there nowadays that does a lot of high flying. But the thing that I look at is I hope that everybody out there that's high flying is doing some of that safe high flying and ain't getting hurt while they're doing it. You know, therefore myself, you know, the stuff that I do is I try to have a little bit more spunk and a little bit more charisma to what I do. Because everybody can high fly, but can you high fly and make people go woo when you do it?
Okay. And so what's your opinion on Jushin Liger and the 1-2-3 Kid?
Like I say, Jushin Liger, like I said, I think he's real good. He's always been one of the great wrestlers. And I've enjoyed, going to Japan and whipping up on him, every chance that I get. But I think he's happened to be one of the great wrestlers that's been out there. But also, like all the other wrestlers, I think he's getting up there in age. And there's so much talent out there nowadays that's up and coming that Liger would probably be one of the least guys that you would have to worry about nowadays. As far as the 1-2-3 Kid, I like the 1-2-3 Kid. He's got a good heart. He tries hard. I think if he put on a little bit more weight, that he would be good. His style of high flying ain't as to the extent as some of the other wrestlers. But I think, as long as he keeps trying and doing what he's doing, he's going to be all right.
Okay, you have done some amazing moves. I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you.
Thanks a lot for your call, David. We appreciate it.
I just have one thing to tell him.
Quickly.
Okay. There's one move that I was really impressed with.
Mm-hmm.
Where you grabbed the ropes and did a slingshot and your somersault splash.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for your call. I appreciate it very much. 955-1240 is the number to call.
Should have brought that kid in to co-host with me.
Oh yeah, that kid he was good.
Yeah, he had his research done. He had the questions ready. He had started off hilariously. But yeah, that was kind of cool. That kid is cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I got a kick out of it too. And I like the hold on, I'm going to put you on hold, and you're all like, or when he tells you, can you guys please talk louder? Us.
Yeah, I popped when I heard that back.
I actually felt like that kid was lucky you even went back to him.
Well, there was something about him that I kind of he endeared himself to me for whatever reason. I wanted to see where it was going to go, and I knew he wasn't going to be one of those who was going to start throwing vulgarities or obscenities at me. So I kept him around.
That's true. One more thing. No. You could tell from the get-go he was an absolute pro.
Yes. I wonder if he had a career in journalism or broadcasting.
His name was David. We'll have to look it up. David from Long Beach. I wonder if that was if he became Dave Meltzer later on. Sort of like the Dread Pirate Roberts. I think it just gets passed down.
Or David Crockett.
Right after that, though, you asked Scorpio here about the crowds that he's experienced across the globe, specifically.
Okay.
And Too Cold, you have been working all over the world, Japan, Mexico, out to California next week, WCW, ECW. What is your opinion of the crowds that you've seen, let's say, watching a WCW event in comparison to the crowd that was at the Paramount for AAA IWC and the crowds that work for ECW, that go to ECW?
Like I say, you're shooting at a lot of things right there. First of all, let's start down with the ECW.
Okay.
The fans down in the ECW are like I said, you hear a lot of people talking about the hardcore fans and stuff. Me, myself, I really don't call them hardcore fans. I just call them fans that enjoy wrestling. The old school of wrestling when you get to go out there and you really brawl and you give the people what they want. I think when you go out to ECW, you give the people what they want and you go out and you fight and you don't go out there and fornicate about what you're doing, then the people there really enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, they just want to see a good match.
Yes, indeed.
The people in Germany, like I say, I work over there quite a bit, and like I say, they understand more or less the psychology of a European type style of wrestling. If you go over and you know how to wrestle, you have the fundamentals, and you know how to put a hold on and put it on right and make a guy pay for it, then the people over there really enjoy your style of wrestling. Then when you throw in a few high-flying moves, then they really, tend to pop off of it and stuff. But the overall crowd, I would say, we probably get a better turnout in Japan. The Japanese people, for some reason, just love wrestling. The physical of it, psychology. To me, for people who doesn't really speak English, they seem to really understand the psychology of wrestling and really appreciate it. And I think over there, you really get a good turnout from the people. Like I say, WCW, WWF, the crowds and the fans and stuff, It's
almost like they're programmed, in my opinion.
Right. They sound like they're so used to seeing a routine type thing and stuff that when they get in there and they see somebody that can really work or somebody that can really wrestle, then they tend to enjoy the sport a lot more. But a lot of the fans that go to, I would say, the WCW and WWF are real dedicated wrestling fans and stuff, because you got to be dedicated to go there and sit for hours and watch some of the stuff that they do, because a lot of times some of the stuff they do just don't make sense.
Very enjoyable segment with this dude.
Yeah, I liked him a lot here. Yeah, this was another one where I don't know. I wasn't like excited to hear you do a Too Cold interview, but I was very interested. I was like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
hear his interviews often, and this is one that really over delivered on my expectations. Where I was just like, wow, this guy's great.
Yeah, he's one of
surprised you
those
didn't have him
dudes
on more.
that doesn't, didn't have a lot of interviews done with him.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't bring him on more often, but is what it is.
Hey, what can you do? You're sometimes lucky who you can get.
Well, that's true too. You didn't exactly have your pick all the time.
No, I did not. I did.
Oh, so Dave from Staten Island calls in and he asks you about ECW. He says he got a tape from ECW a long time ago and it was the most boring thing he'd ever seen. And you told him that it's no comparison now, that had to be from before Heyman was involved.
Yeah.
Well,
it was. Those old origins of ECW, those early, it was nothing really special.
Yeah. Who
was it a hot crowd? It was smaller crowds, and they were doing TV tapings in bars initially, and then even the initial run in the ECW arena before they called it ECW arena. It wasn't robust crowds, and it wasn't these hardcore fans that then began to flock when the change of direction in the promotion started happening.
Yeah, and then even the next caller was saying that they were a fan of ECW when Joe Goodhart had it. And they're wondering how it fares now, and you're just like, it's incredible. Watch it. So,
well, Joe Goodhart never had ECW though. He was tri-state.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what she said. So I don't know what she was saying.
Where is she? Let's call her up and berate her.
Yeah, it was Debbie from Old Bridge.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's New Jersey. What can you expect?
I love Jersey, man.
Who had it before? Who had ECW first when it was Eastern?
Well,
I know Gilbert had the book before Paul.
It was Todd, and who else was in the creative side there booking? After this, Eddie Gilbert for a while. It started to get hot, but I don't know who the original booker was.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. But let's see. You go back to some callers while you try to get Paul on the line. They're asking about. Oh, actually, you had a couple calls with Too Cold before, but I had to pull clips from here because there's not much here.
All right.
Ken calls in and asks Too Cold if he's going to be there on Saturday, the filming. He said yes, and he goes, great, big fan, and that was it. Was it Dina Devine who was a promoter back in the day?
Where?
Like, I don't know. It was really hard for me to piece together what the name was, but it sounded like Dina Devine was a promoter.
Diane Devine.
Diane. Yeah. Who's she?
She was a longtime wrestling fan out of St. Louis, and she was a big part of the Wrestling Fans International Association, and just a kind of a legend back then. And the fact that she was even promoting was kind of a little eye-opening for me 29 years ago. But yeah, she had some legacy. Yeah. Yeah,
you'd mentioned her because Too Cold said he'd worked for her, and you said that you were dating yourself because you remembered her very well.
Now I'm really dating myself.
Yeah, 29 years later.
Yeah, because I knew her for back in the 70s.
Yeah,
and kind of funny part of it when I threw Mike Lano out of my house. When I caught him stealing my mail in 1975, and when he planned on spending the entire summer with me, and I think it lasted 7 or 8 days before I threw him out, he actually went to stay by Diane Devine's.
That's so good.
And she really never talked to me after that, so who knows what Mike told her.
He just told her the truth, I'm sure.
I'm sure he did. He's never been known to embellish anything in his whole history.
Yeah, that guy's basically Abe Lincoln over there.
Abe Lincoln.
Yeah. A kid calls in and asks Too Cold what's going on with Bob Backlund. Everyone was really curious about this Bob Backlund heel.
Yeah, well, Backlund. People were curious about that dude.
I loved that Too Cold kept it kayfabe, and he goes, "Well, he's been one of the greats for a long time, and there's a lot of pressure trying to keep up with the '90s. Like,
Yeah.
or he's just gotten frustrated, and it's coming out. Like, he played it kayfabe." Let's see. You're still trying to get Tammy Fitch on the line.
I wonder if we could get her on the line now.
Still a lot of phone access nowadays, I think.
My God, not to digress or change the
Yeah.
subject drastically, but I have to. What a freaking tragic life. I mean, she had it all and she just blew it.
It is one of the saddest stories, and to be honest, like, she's also just a major. With all the tragedy that surrounds her, I don't think that's a thing that gets highlighted as much as how much she was actually just tormented while in the business. You know what I mean? Like, she was not treated well by many.
Well,
She had
never
it
treated
all.
people well either, though. But she was always a bitch.
Well, yeah, but they weren't.
She
They
was a bitch.
dumped.
She was a bitch. She was kind of a bitch before she even got into the business as just this photographer that used to hang out with Candido, and she just thought she was full of herself. She was, you know, extremely charismatic and beautiful, and she had everything that you could possibly want in a character and to be associated with the business. But whether she was exploited to the point where, you know, there's so many stories, you know, the dalliances, the, you know, sexapades, whatever you want to call it. But to see where she is now and the fact that her life was lost and she never learned her lesson. And when I saw the fact that she was sentenced the other day and looking at her and what her life had become, I mean, what a tragic story, but she brought it on herself in many, many ways. But who knows what, you know, what happened to her when she entered the WWF. And she was kind of, you know, how can I put it? But, you know, she was kind of shared by a lot of guys.
Yeah, she was like dehumanized by a lot of the guys too, in as many ways as they could.
I'm sure she
And
was.
so, I mean, even they talked about the slot bucket, that whole thing where they're, hey, we're going to have a live TV taping.
Yes.
Everyone pissed and shit in this.
Yep.
So it can go. And it's like, that's not necessary no matter how much of a bitch someone is to you, you know?
Right.
Like, it's a crazy, tragic story because there's like no light anywhere in her story.
And she was
Bad
such a young girl, just beautiful girl. She had that it factor and it just spiraled and it continued and it still spiraled. And now it's come to a very tragic conclusion with her not seeing the light of day outside of prison for many, many years. And a life was lost.
Yeah. It's just awful. Like, it's been a long time since you heard about Sunny when her name Tammy would ever show up in anything that didn't, before you even clicked on it or read it or anything, you just immediately went, oh no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, we'll get to hear her voice in a couple of weeks when she's on with Candido, Meltzer, and Ron Skoler. That should be an interesting show.
That'll be cool. We'll talk more about it when we get there. Working with her on the level you did, was she easy to work with for you?
The one show that, you know, I booked her at the convention in '93, had her in the ring. I did a little angle with her and Chris. She called me a fat pig or whatever, you know, so she was very kind to me. But it wasn't, I didn't have a difficult time working with her.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't recall any major, and Chris was just a sweetheart, man. Chris was a great freaking guy.
Yeah. Let's see. You read off results from Dominic Valente.
Yes.
He's letting you know about all the shows happening in town. He mentions that the WWF was in the Meadowlands and had about like just barely over 1,000 people in there. And you were talking about how terrible that is.
Oh, it is, of course.
It's not great. It is not great. You guys try to get Tammy again. Apparently her line is busy, so you know she's there.
Yeah.
She's not picking up. And you're putting over a bus trip coming up on the 19th because at this point you're trying to kill time.
Oh, waiting for Paul.
You're trying to get anyone on the phone, and you're killing time.
Yeah.
So the bus trip's going to happen because it has enough people to where it will not be canceled, and that's for sure. But there's still plenty of seats you're trying to fill. So, okay, I skipped this, and we're going to come back to it. Your producer pops on and says that he cannot conference in 2 calls at once right now.
Well, that's very nice.
And it makes for an interesting couple moments.
Okay.
I pulled that clip, but it's attached to the clip following this one. Because what we have here, because you go through the lineup for the AAA pay-per-view. Oh, and you said that when you were working with them that people were throwing dirty diapers at Jake?
Yes. Yes. Dirty diapers. That was one of the things. Cups of mustard. I mean, it was just it was horrific. They take the kids' shitty diapers and throw it at the heels.
Like, it seems like an interesting thing to bring to the event.
Yeah. They used to feed the kids X-Lax before they take them to the arena, for AAA. And then, here we go. Good job. Good job. Little Jose. Jake wasn't happy about it, but it was kind of funny.
That's good heat, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got paid well enough for that shit being tossed at him.
This clip is the last clip we have before we do all Paul clips, because Paul came on and it was fun.
All right.
You talked about an article you saw in the Wrestling Chatterbox, which is followed up by a pretty fun phone call.
Okay, great.
As well.
Let's hear it.
Oh, now I read the Wrestling Chatterbox last week, and there was a letter there by Big Al Louder, I believe, and called us so-called experts of pro wrestling, that we don't give the answers. When we criticize WCW or the WWF, we don't give solutions. Well, the solutions are for both of those promotions to go get into the 90s. Wrestling styles have changed. The most exciting stuff that's happening right now is on the international front and in Philadelphia. It's believable action. It's not cartoonish. It's stuff that you could just have that sense of believability a little bit, that suspension of disbelief, if you will. And watching the WCW pay-per-view card last week, although there's some exciting wrestlers in that company, Steve Austin, Brian Pillman, you can go on and on and on, but it's like you're watching a corporate structure and there's really no surprises. Things just, you have no surprises there, and you don't believe what you're watching. That's the bottom line. So that's the deal. And with the WWF, it's the same thing. It's just turned into a cartoon show. We'll take a phone call, and we'll still try to get Paulie Dangerously. The number to call, 955-1240. We'll go to Brooklyn, New York, and speak to Kelly. Kelly, you're next.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Kelly. How are you?
Fine.
What's going on?
Well, I'd like to make a couple of comments, and I have to ask you 2 questions.
Go right ahead.
The comment is about Halloween Havoc. I am going to miss Ric Flair so bad.
You're not the only one.
I think he's wonderful. He reminds me of my father.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And can you explain that in a little bit more detail?
I don't know, like Ric Flair, his age, my dad's age, somewhere in between like that, my dad's like outrageous and my Ric Flair is kind of outrageous, so something like that,
Okay.
And I'm very glad that Bruce the Barber Beefcake turned on Hulk Hogan. It's about time.
Yeah, that was something that we had heard rumors about in the last week or so.
I knew before when I saw the masked guy before. I'm like, that's got to be Brutus. I know.
Yeah.
I know for a fact. And whatever happened to Heavy Metal Van Hammer and Marty Jannetty?
Okay, Marty is just he was on his last tour. He wrestled overseas about a month and a half ago, and he got deported from overseas. So he's still having his problems. He's not working for the WWF anymore, obviously. So Marty just needs to get himself straightened out because he's certainly a great wrestler, but he's got a lot of personal demons that are affecting his career. On that last tour, he went overseas and he did get deported because he creates quite a ruckus in the dining room of the hotel there, and they got him and they deported him right out of the country.
Oh boy.
And as far as Van Hammer goes, I really don't know what he's doing right now. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think Marty Jannetty needs a good woman.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Write him a letter.
Where's the address?
I don't have it.
Me neither.
Well, that's sorry to hear that, Kelly. Anything else?
I guess. Oh, new faces in WWF.
Okay. New faces coming in?
Yeah.
Well, King Kong Bundy's there. As far as anyone entering, I know they're going to be bringing back Brian Lee, who was the fake Undertaker. They'll be bringing him in a different gimmick.
Oh, biker costume?
That's what I heard, yeah.
Oh.
And that should be coming up. But I haven't heard of anyone else on the horizon, new talent entering at this point.
Yeah, I also think that whatever happened to the women's title?
With Medusa, Alundra Blaze, and Bull Nakano?
Yeah.
Well, Medusa is still the title holder. They're going to have a match November 20th. That's the biggest women's show in Japan. All Japan Women Wrestling is promoting a show there.
Yeah.
There should be about 50,000 people there, and Nakano and Medusa are scheduled to wrestle that night. And I think that'll be the night that Bull Nakano wins the WWF Women's title.
Yeah.
In front of her hometown crowd in Tokyo.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate your call.
You too.
Boy, if I was a radio psychologist, I'd dig deeper into those daddy issues.
Clearly, immediately, I was like, what? Yeah. And then she thinks Marty just needs a good man or a good woman.
I wonder where she is today. I mean, what happened to her?
And then for a little bit, I couldn't tell if she was flirting with you too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was, but she was fun. She sounded nice, but
she had called before. I remember her voice from previous shows. But yeah, the Flair thing and the daddy thing was interesting to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also thought it was just
another tragic story in pro wrestling when she finally met her heroes, Flair and Jannetty, the same time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Woo!
Yeah. But I mean, it was neat. She just wanted to shoot the shit.
Yeah. Maybe Flair was referring to her when he did that little promo that's supposed to air on TV this week.
Yeah, he's looking for all the Kellys from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You finally get Paulie on.
Oh.
So what I have here is the beginning. Right before that call, I have you trying to figure out what's about to happen with the calls.
Yeah.
I have a little fast forward to where you believe you're getting Paul on the line, and then you get Paul on. But it's an interesting way to spend airtime that you pay for.
Back, second hour of the program, and Patty was just telling me something about Mark that we can't do any conference calls anymore. Go on the microphone. Let's talk to me here. Tell me what's going on. What's happening? We'll find out what the real scoop is any second here. Mark is our illustrious producer engineer with his assistant Patricia in there, answering phone calls diligently here at the program.
All right, it tears apart the phone system if we put two lines on at once.
What do you mean? Like when a guest is on, we can't take calls for a guest?
No, we can't take calls for a guest. I figured it out how we can do it in here.
Okay. Why don't they get some better equipment in here?
You have to complain to the big boss about that. I'll talk to you about that after the show.
But but we can take calls for guests.
We can take calls. It's we can do it.
Okay.
All right, I'll explain.
But next week we can't do it. Is that what you're saying?
No, we can do it. I figured out how to do it. I figured out a way to do it.
All right.
But I'll explain it to you after the show.
Okay, but for now, like if we have a guest coming on, we still can take calls.
Yes.
Cool. All right,
we're still working on Tammy. I think her phone's still busy.
I don't know. What about? Oh, yeah, try to reach Paulie then.
Try to reach Paulie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he'll be coming on the program and talking about what's going on in ECW. Now, let me give you the complete lineup for next week's pay-per-view. Is he on the air? Do we have someone coming on the air or what? What are you guys doing in there? You drinking? What are you drinking? Booze? Eating pizzas?
Patty gave us the wrong number.
Oh, is that what happened?
That's what happened.
Thank you, Patty.
I just called Paulie.
It.
I just called Paulie on the number you gave me, and he just yelled at me because it was the wrong number.
Uh-huh.
It's all Patty's fault.
Thank you. See you guys later.
Patty's calling him right now. Hang on.
We appreciate it very much. So, what are you guys doing in there? I mean, it's a party atmosphere in the control room here today. Not only is there champagne being opened up, they're doing shots of what? What are you doing shots of? Rumpelmans or something in there? You guys are going to get in big trouble. I tell you. We're here each and every week at Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Have been back now, I guess, for 2 months here at the program, and it certainly have been enjoyable. We've gotten back into the flow of things over here. We got lots of exciting things upcoming to talk about. which include, I don't know. I'm just waiting for a call. I just have nothing else to say here today. I'm done talking for today. Maybe we should just go home, okay? Yeah, I'm drinking water. I got in trouble because I brought coffee in here last week. I can't even bring coffee now. You have to drink water in here, and that is it. Can you imagine? I can't drink anything else but water. I'm taking a sip right now. 955-1240 is the number to call here. And this is a plot against me here today. We did have an exciting first hour of the program with Paul, Mr. Too Cold Scorpio, and that was real good. And then some interesting calls, and not right now, just sitting here waiting as the time ticks by, and I spend $5 a minute to be here at the program, something in that vicinity, a couple bucks a minute, whatever it costs. So, what else is going on in your life? Let's talk psychology today. I'll be Dr. Joy Brown. Tell me your problems here at the program. Okay, is he there? Hello? Hello?
What?
What the hell is going on? Do I have to fire some people in there? Or,
oh, man, do you ever.
Or do you have a problem with your cellular phone?
My phones are perfect. I've never had a problem. I haven't even hit anybody with these phones.
You haven't hit anyone with those phones yet.
Nobody.
They're still pretty fresh. They're not cracked at all.
These are my unbashed telephones.
Unbelievable.
Or unabashed, whichever the case may be.
Wow. Dead air, trying to just talk about anything while they're, Patty, who was kind of an intern, she helped out. And the engineer, minimum wage guy, and could see where his radio career was heading. Nowhere.
So good. I think, did you ever listen to Taz's podcast?
Oh, a long time ago.
I remember he would take water breaks. He would always do the water break Jones.
Yeah.
I think he stole that from you, dude.
He might have.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Because there you were right there with a loud.
It was dragging on. It's like what when you're ready to talk to someone and they're not there, and then there's all these problems, and then I couldn't have my coffee, and I was really irritated about that because they prohibited anything but water in the studio for whatever reason. I don't know. Yeah, it was about 5 minutes of havoc there. I was getting ready to get up and walk out.
That's it. Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna take a sip right now.
I'm gonna bring that Debbie from Brooklyn back on and have her do the rest of the show and talk about older men.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I just got a kick out of it. I was such a big fan of Taz's water break gimmick that he did. He had a T-shirt for it, and I got it when I met Taz. I had him sign his water bottle.
Did you?
Yeah.
Look at it. There it is. If you're
He
watching
signed
on
a water
YouTube,
bottle.
that is.
Yeah, H2O Jones he wrote, and then he signed it.
That's the original water too?
Yeah. Yeah. I cracked the seal to get some air out because it was deforming, but
I'm sure.
Yeah. But that's the water. But yeah, it was funny too when I met him. He goes, "Oh, do you got something you want me to sign? You want just sign a 8x10?" And I was like that, or one of them water break Jones over there.
Yeah, you have Taz's DNA in that bottle over there.
It wasn't open at the time. He hadn't had it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. But I made the comment. I was like, unless you want to sign one of those water break Jones gimmicks over there. And he started laughing. And he goes, "You know what? No one's asked me to do that. I'll do that." And he goes, "I haven't done it for anyone else. So if it shows up on eBay, I'm going to know." And I was like, no, it's right here.
There it is.
Yeah. But
priceless collector's item.
Another thing that you were the forefront of, the live water break.
What a fucking pioneer I was.
Yeah. You tell Paul.
I'll have to put the explicit warning on the show now because I said that.
Yeah. Pioneer.
No. You know what I said, Marsh.
You tell Paul that you've watched all the ECW tapes, and you asked how long it takes. This was interesting, Paul, because this Paul was a little more subdued. He was still fun, and you'll hear some of that, but he was a lot of business on this one. You told me you stayed up till the middle of the night. He says, "I know because you called me." And you asked him how long it takes to edit the shows, and he said each show takes about 24 to 36 hours to do the editing for. I thought that was interesting. I'll tell you, it does not take me 24 hours to edit this show.
No. Well, that TV show was a little complex.
It was complex,
and where they edited it was in a house. It wasn't even in a studio. It was like in the guy's house.
Yeah, and I think it was tape to tape. I think you would play a tape and record a segment on the next tape, and then put in another tape and go to the. I think it was just swapping tapes. It wasn't like now where you just clip it.
It was mad scientist stuff, man.
Yeah, it's insane. You do ask him about the show coming up this weekend, and he starts to tell you about some of the matches on there, and then you guys go and talk about Cactus and Sabu for a bit.
This coming Friday and Saturday, you got 2 shows taking place. One will be in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, which you recently debuted there at the Fieldhouse for television. And then Saturday night, you're in ECW Arena in Philadelphia. What are the cards for this weekend, off the top of your head?
Well, Friday night in Hamburg is the return match between Sabu and Cactus Jack.
Okay, let me stop you right there before you continue, okay? The last thing I saw Friday night was Cactus Jack against Sabu from Hamburg, which I have voted, if there's any polls out there, as the wrestling match of the year that I've seen for 1994. But it was even a little too violent for me.
It was too violent for me, and I was at ringside. I mean, it scared me.
When he took a bottle and he attempted to break it over Cactus's head 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, it wouldn't break. But that sickening sound was certainly loud enough that it came out over the TV, and then he finally broke the bottle over Cactus's head.
He swung at him full force, and he clipped him with the bottom heavy part of the bottle. And it's a testament to the toughness of Cactus Jack that the guy wasn't completely unconscious.
Yeah.
I mean, it was scary, and this was all done after Sabu broke 3 ribs.
Yeah, that was another thing, which was pretty much was right in the start of the match. And 5 minutes into the match, Sabu and Cactus are brawling outside the ring, and Sabu gets on the ropes and somersaults, trying to somersault onto Cactus Jack, but instead lands on top of the steel railing. And I thought that was it for him.
Well, I mean, he missed, no doubt.
Well,
about
he
it.
missed, yeah.
He missed, and he crashed, and that was always it's always been part of the mystique of Sabu. It's like going to see Evel Knievel or going to see the Indy 500. You know, sooner or later someone's going to crash, and that's both tragic and it's both very exciting and exhilarating as well. It's the type of thing that Sabu lives on. This guy truly lives on the edge. I mean, I thought I lived on the edge. This guy lives on the edge.
Yeah.
And he crashed. I mean, no doubt about it. He sailed right over Cactus Jack and just crashed right on that guardrail. And I just told 911, go get Cactus, because we were going to just have to switch the match impromptu to Cactus and 911, because there was no way Sabu was going to be able to continue, but he did. I mean, that's the type of athlete. I think it was imbecilic of him to get up and fight, even though he won the match. It was stupid of him to get up and fight. I mean, he had 3 broken ribs. The risk that he took were far outweighed any benefit that he could have had by winning the match.
How is he doing now?
Well, his ribs feel a little better, but he broke 2 fingers.
Okay, that took place recently. He broke 2 fingers, in Philadelphia at the sports party you guys run?
Yeah, there's a place called Pulsations in Philadelphia, which is a real controversial place right now because it was an adult entertainment club, and then they shut it down because of the local people, so then they brought in ECW wrestling. It's a whole big controversy, so we fit right in there with controversy.
Uh-huh.
And we ran it on a Saturday night, and Sabu laid Curtis Hughes, Mr. Hughes, the Roughneck, out on a table, and it was a tag team match, Sabu and 911 against Shane Douglas, the franchise, and the Roughneck, Mr. Hughes. And he laid Mr. Hughes out on a table, and he flipped over the top rope. And when Mr. Hughes moved, he turned the table completely on its side, and Sabu came right down through the side of the table. And in order to try to protect breaking his leg, he put his hand down in front of him, and he jammed every bone from the top of his finger right down into the bottom third of the finger, below the lower knuckle.
Is he going to be able to compete next weekend?
He already had the finger set, and he took the splint off just early yesterday afternoon. And he claims that he's ready to work. He claims he's ready to fight. He claims that he's ready to wrestle.
Okay, and Friday night he wrestles Cactus Jack in a rematch.
Falls count anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania, which means if they go down to Main Street in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, then there better be a referee right on their tail, because the falls will count any. If they fight all the way up the interstate to the ECW arena and the fall occurs the next night, it occurs. There's no time limit. The match can go on for weeks. There's going to be a winner, and this is, of course, Cactus's pet match. This is his match.
This is his match, Falls Count Anywhere.
And we don't go in anticipating to win. So if Sabu wins, imagine the upset of Sabu defeating Cactus Jack at his own game. It's the same as when the Public Enemy defeated the Funk Brothers in a barbed wire match. It was absolutely unheard of. And to be honest with you, this is Cactus Jack's chance for revenge against Sabu. He's never been able. The one guy Cactus Jack has never gotten a victory over, and he got victories over Sting. Sting got victories over him. He got victories over Vader, but Vader got victories over him. The one man Cactus Jack has never been able to get a victory over has been Sabu. This is Cactus's chance to finally get his Duke against Sabu.
I remember that whole deal like it was yesterday with that match from Hamburg with Cactus and Sabu. It was just incredibly violent. And when you're hitting somebody over the head with a bottle and all you hear is clunk and it doesn't break over and over again, it kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies, man.
Yeah, the sinking thud of the glasses. I've seen it a couple of times on the clips, and it's like every time I think The Rock and Mankind was bad, you see that and you just go, oh.
Yeah. And they just went balls to the wall every time. And it is incredible. And Sabu, to this day, is really, I know it's been done before, after, but this guy used to close his wounds up with crazy glue in the back.
Insane. And then when he said the Falls Count Anywhere and no time limit, it could go on for weeks.
It's like Falls Count Anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania. The match could go on for weeks.
I wish they did that, though. I wish that the TV show just had snippets every week of now they're over here. You see a referee just getting more tired. Right. They're trying to switch it out with a different referee. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they could carry it over for like 4 weeks that they're still like battling throughout. 1 week it's, right there in Hershey, Pennsylvania at the amusement park. And, they're on the bridge. They're at the ECW arena. They're everywhere. They're just traveling. They're at a rest stop on the interstate.
Would have been awesome.
It would have been. What could have been.
But yeah, Cactus and Sabu breaking ribs and then continuing to go, resetting his fingers and going. Like,
yeah.
You think about the amount that guy's like sacrificed his body on and stuff, and like he's like a legend to a lot of us, but he's not going in a Hall of Fame, Like,
no, he never had that run in a major organization, which would have allowed him to make great money.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
And he's still out there. Out there.
He showed up and did something over at AEW a couple months ago. I hope he got paid big on that, just for the sake of paying the guy big.
Did he wrestle on TV?
I thought he had a match.
Oh, well, because I don't watch it anyway, really. I watch it occasionally, and it's usually fast forwarding till I see MJF or, who else? I'm not into anyone else there, really, at this point.
Oh, I guess he just was involved in a match. He didn't have a full-on match.
Oh, okay.
But still, he hit somebody.
Yeah, I will watch the Nature Boy this Friday though, if they air that.
If they air that, just to give you a little sense of the old time. I was wondering where he'd been. If I'm honest, they made that announcement that he signed and then he hadn't been on for a couple of weeks. So
I see Tony Khan's eyes pop out of his head like in the old cartoons.
Damn it. Let's see. You talk about how. Oh, you know what? Paul talks about other matches. How you should start doing 2-day bus trips to do.
Yeah,
both
of
nights.
course. Why not?
Yeah. And Paul also thinks that Dean Malenko is on the verge of hitting it real big, and he's going to be in a match against Taz. Malenko was the guy that we liked as kids, but I mean, I think you kind of get why he didn't get much bigger than he got.
Because he wasn't much bigger than what he was.
There wasn't a ton of charisma. You know what I mean?
No. He was very stoic and just no nonsense shooter.
Yeah. I mean, I never wanted to fight the guy.
No.
But
no.
Yeah, he wasn't. And his matches were great. But
yeah, he was just he was very low key, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of cool to find down the line you find out the stuff. But to know that he's been a producer backstage at the companies for so long, like he was in WWE for a long time. As soon as he left, AEW picked him up, and he's over there now. Like,
yeah,
it's just cool.
Good person.
Did you have any dealings with him?
Not really. No business done with him, and he never really agreed to do the show. So it was just kind of a acknowledgement when you'd see him backstage. That was about it. No friendship, no really detailed or long conversation with him.
I'll say he doesn't come off as talkative.
No.
Here's a clip that just made me laugh. But you do also ask him about Dennis Coralluzzo's show. You ask him about Flair.
Okay.
Well, there's been I've been in the back at ECW when I go to all the shows, and the camaraderie, I guess you call it. Everyone, there's your dog.
Yeah, my Rottweiler's eating my Chihuahua.
Wow. A Rottweiler eating a Chihuahua. You have both of those types of dogs in your house?
I got cats and fish too, and birds.
Oh, great.
I like watching animals eat each other. It's a lot of fun, and plus, the fur. It's good for Christmas presents.
Sure it is.
I mean, we're politically incorrect, but we're damn proud of it.
Yeah. What's the heat of you guys doing a show head-to-head to Carluzzo's NWA tournament?
The heat's on their side because they're going to lose. There's no heat on our side. It looks like a profitable night for wrestling to us.
Yeah.
We've done this before. We have run shows 2 weeks after a major show. We did this in August. We did it on the 13th of August. We had Hardcore Heaven and came back 2 weeks later on the 27th. With the tag team title match between Cactus Jack and Mikey Whipwreck against the Public Enemy, where Cactus and Mikey won the belts, and we had the world title tournament where Shane Douglas threw down the NWA title because he felt it was a has-been organization and declared himself the ECW heavyweight champion of the world. So this is not unusual for us to come back 2 weeks later and do a major blowout show. And because we won't be back in the arena until December 17th, and because there were scheduling conflicts in booking a Thanksgiving show, we felt this was like our holiday show. Mm-hmm. And it would be stupid for us not to run on that night. It just everything points to this being a real successful night for us.
So obviously we'll have more information on that November 17th show, November 19th show rather, here next Sunday, I would guess. After
yes, you'll have full disclosure of the lineup. You'll have the entire lineup for the 19th.
Okay, great. We got fans who do want to ask you some questions, Paul, and we're going to take those comments here at the program, 955-1240. Let me ask you a question. What do you think of WCW's Halloween Havoc last week?
From what I saw of it, it was a real glitzy show with a lot of nice lighting effects. Okay. I mean, from a wrestling standpoint, I feel that they have chosen their direction. And that's good for them, and it's great for me because we offer a totally polar opposite product, and if that's where they feel they need to go, then that's obviously it's conducive to their advertisers and their sponsors, and obviously the corporate management at Turner likes what they see, and that's good for them because that's the beast that they have to appease. They have to appease the corporate structure. That company is not designed to appease the fans, and we're kind of like in the situation of, the NBA now really couldn't care less if they have 20,000 people in Madison Square Garden for the Knicks, or they have 5,000 people in the Garden for the Knicks. It's their TV rights and their sponsorship money and all the banners and the signs and the billboards in the building that pay the bills. For us, our bills are paid by the fans. Our bills are paid by drawing people to the arena. Our bills are paid that way. We don't have heavy sponsorship. We don't have the heavy advertising dollar that they have, and we don't have a corporate sponsor to answer to. So the beast that we have to appease is the wrestling fan. So we're geared towards that market. They're geared towards more appeasing the sneaker company or Nintendo. We're not. We're geared towards the wrestling fan. So they've chosen their direction, and we've chosen ours. I don't agree with their direction, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It means that the sneaker company and Nintendo's going to like them, and hopefully the fans are going to choose us.
Well, what kind of corporate sponsors do you possibly see sponsoring ECW, given the violent nature of the program?
Is it any more violent than football? Is it any more violent than? It's certainly not as violent as the movie Pulp Fiction. It's certainly not as violent as the movie Natural Born Killers. I mean, for example, take the Cactus Jack Sabu match. It was a very physically intense match. There is obviously a lot of risk involved in our product, and these guys go the extra mile. To that, I'd say anybody that is, I mean, a corporate sponsor for us would have to be somebody that's willing to take the heat of being not 100% politically correct. And look, Howard Stern has, for crying out loud, Bob Grant has sponsors, and we're nowhere near that level of xenophobia or racism or anything else. You know, we're strictly out there to give people a hard-hitting, real, down-to-earth product. You know, we're there to give them excitement and the true drama of competition, and that's what we feel we are. We don't feel we're anything else. You know, we're not out there, taking a baby and throwing him into a trash disposal. You know, that's violent to me. Yes. You know, we're not out there chopping people's heads off. These guys are out there beating the living crap out of each other because that's how we view wrestling to be.
Yeah, I like this, Paulie.
Yeah, it's interesting to have him be like both controversial and towing a company line in a sense. It's not like a bad thing at all, but he's very much all like, this is our product and this is why we do it. And then you're also kind of going like, damn.
This was, that's, to have a conversation like that and him not hanging up on people or berating people, or the callers and stuff, and being really in character. So that's always kind of fun to see. I do have to interrupt this regularly scheduled broadcast of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast to, and even though this will probably be old news by the time this airs, but Ric Flair, the Nature Boy himself, that we have alluded to tonight for a couple of reasons, just tweeted out something pretty interesting.
Go ahead.
I'm going to read it to you. It was less than 2 hours ago. And the Nature Boy says, I am so tired of hearing all this negativity. I don't need to work, and I don't need the money. Can I simply enjoy being by my dear friend Sting's side for the next few months without so much hatred? I know I'm old, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy life. I've earned the right to do whatever I want, and I'm exactly where I want to be. I appreciate everything, Tony Khan, but I'm more than willing to walk away if I am embarrassing you and your company. All I can say is I'm sorry. So this is creating quite a bit of heat with his remark about what he said. He wanted to bring girls over 18 to his room, or what? What was the line?
I mean, he was given his hotel room and saying women 18 to 28, no boyfriends or husbands allowed. I mean, it's definitely not like, I mean, it's piggish no matter how you cut it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I also don't think it's this singular comment. I think that even with his signing, I saw them getting a lot of heat on it too, of like, why are we signing a guy? And I still think he's got heat from the Dark Side of the Ring episode.
Yeah, that hasn't gone away totally at all. I mean, that Dark Side of the Ring story and all that controversy, and it's just another part of the shit show that's going on in AEW right now. I mean,
it's kind of a sensitive audience.
Jeez,
for better or for worse.
The audience, in just like the demographic of the audience of AEW, you're saying they're sensitive? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for better or for worse. I'm not saying as an indictment, but they're very socially aware and they're very sensitive. And there's always a big uproar when they want this person signed, or if somebody does something out of line, they're very vocal about that. It's a very vocal and sensitively aware audience.
Schizophrenic fan base to me.
It's
a pro wrestling show.
Yes.
So you really can't be woke. You can be, but you can't be.
Yeah.
To the extremes, but I mean, it's just really, it's kind of like this nonstop soap opera.
Yes.
What's going on there with one guy with his eyes bugging out of his head?
I think
AEW, what's going on, except for writing checks every week of millions of dollars.
perpetually the most compelling content to come out of AEW is the backstage.
Yes. And that's not the way to have a successful company.
I think it's exactly why you get so many followers online and social media interactions, and you get so few people in the audience, because no one cares what's happening on the show. They care about what's happening backstage of the show.
I'm glad we're covering shit from 30 years ago, man.
Yes.
And it was a shit show back then in a lot of respects, obviously, with everything that went on in the business. But it was really like listening to what we're doing today, Too Cold Scorpio, Paul E., what was happening, getting ready for When Worlds Collide pay-per-view, Lucha Libre stuff. And all you hear now is like, it's like, who's going to try to cancel the next person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. And that was the end of this interruption. Now back to regular programming.
Let's see. I really liked Paul talking about licensing deals.
Yeah.
This was 29 years before the TV licensing deals became the be-all of the business. And he was already acknowledging that that's already starting to happen.
Yeah. I really felt that I could help them back then.
Yeah.
Because I had met with Todd and met with Paul, and I was like, listen, I'll come to work for you guys, and I'll sell sponsorships and help marketing and bring these types of deals to the table. But it was kind of like commission only, and I wasn't in a position to work like that. I think I could have done a great job trying to get advertisers for their shows because no one was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But there was that. He's also talking about Howard Stern and what's about to happen culturally. Yep. Like he had his finger on the pulse.
He did.
Sure.
Always did. And still does. He still does.
I think so, yeah. Let's see. The last clip we have is two callers in one. There's one caller who comes in before who asks Paul what he thinks of the British Bulldog. So
okay.
I don't know what your audience is doing a lot of the time, John. I don't know that they listen.
They were schizophrenic too.
Like
Debbie from Brooklyn. Debbie from Brooklyn knew exactly what she wanted.
Kelly from Brooklyn,
Woo!
and then
Kelly.
And David, the little kid David. He knew what he wanted.
David knew. Yeah.
Kelly and David could have done a show. Yeah. But this is Dan from Long Beach, followed by Robert from Medford.
Okay.
Dan from Long Beach, you're next.
Hello?
Yeah, Dan, you're next.
Okay, Paul. Did anything happen with the deal with ECW and MSG Network?
We are right now trying to find a suitable time slot to be on the MSG Network, and the person that we have been discussing with just went on their honeymoon, unfortunately, for 9 days.
That click is why we can't have the conference call, because it sounds like
we're scheduled for a meeting sometime this week to discuss a suitable time slot. Once we have a time slot picked, the window's about 4 weeks before we go on. So we're hopefully going to be on before Christmas. We were shooting for Thanksgiving, and that's just not a realistic proposition right now. But we're shooting to be on by Christmas on MSG. We moved all the much more closer to New York when we cleared CTN in New Jersey. So now we're on a lot of cable homes in New Jersey as well, and that's obviously a necessary progression to MSG.
Okay, and John?
Yes.
What's Davey Boy Smith's real name?
Davey Boy Smith's real name.
David Smith.
David Smith, yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, thanks for your call. Robert from
I don't know if his middle name is Boy, but...
I don't think it's Boy. Robert from Medford, you're next.
Hi, Paulie. How's it going?
It wasn't going well. I wouldn't be on the radio.
This is true. I just wanted to tell you, the difference between ECW and going to a WWF card is, like, unbelievable. Friday night, I went to the Nassau Coliseum, and I could have actually fell asleep there and woke up the next morning, and I would have never known the difference.
Well, you should have saved your money and come to our show.
Well, I'm coming next week, and I'm going to November 19th. I can't wait. Every time you walk out of the ECW arena, it's like you want more. You just want more, and you're never disappointed when you walk out of the building.
So you obviously have come to our previous shows.
All the time, every one I come to. I just want to know, when are you gonna? When you do get in the New York area? Because I'm getting tired of driving to Philadelphia now.
Me too. Trust me.
I want to know, do you know what kind of arenas you might like? The Manhattan Center, maybe?
It all depends on the Manhattan Center is a real expensive proposition. It's oh boy, did we find that out. We don't know yet. It all depends on the type of response we get. If we have a certain amount of response where we think, okay, hey, we can pack a local high school gym or a local college gymnasium in Long Island or Westchester or Rockland County, okay, that's where we'll go with.
Now, are you going to have
response is overwhelming? Then hey, the sky's the limits.
Are you going to have to tone it down for the MSG
No way.
network?
No way.
That's what I was hoping wouldn't happen. You'd have to tone it down.
Anybody that takes us on the air knows what our product is, and one of the things that we ask for is clearance on the nature of the product. I mean, this is not your typical show, and this is not for every station that's out there. I mean, it's like NYPD Blue. NYPD Blue is not cleared on the entire network. And major markets like Dallas, Houston, or Little Rock don't even air the show. They air something else in that time slot. But there's 80% of the country of the network that does air NYPD Blue, and those that do know that they're going to get some backlash from it. There is not going to be a station that carries our show. It's not going to have somebody who doesn't have the brains to change the freaking channel to something else and then go, hey, okay, I'll just change the channel because I don't like this. No, somebody has to complain because they don't want it on their TV. So
are the storylines going to stay pretty much the same, or are you going to have to reintroduce the characters to the New York people?
Anytime we go into a new market, such as when we went on to the Sunshine Network in Florida, we will customize about the first four shows, keeping you up to date with what's going on now, but also letting you understand who all the major players are. So we tailor make the first 4 weeks of any new market that we go into.
So that's like a crash course for the
it's a
new
crash
viewers.
course, yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Paul.
And you get hooked pretty quick, let me tell you that.
I hope so.
A true loyal ECW fan.
Oh yeah. I mean, the first thing he did was saying going to a WWE show sucked.
Yeah.
So he's going to go back to ECW. So
it wasn't good back then for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good episode.
I got a kick out of your producer coming in. See, this is why we can't do the calls. It's chirping. You're like, you're talking over the guy.
Yeah.
Like, you could have cut in between calls.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
hey, how come some calls had it and some didn't?
Yeah. And then that was the other thing too, where he's all like, "We can't do it," and then you're like, "You can't." And he goes, "Well, we can." And you're like, "Well," I didn't have it here, but the British Bulldog call,
yeah,
it was tough. You guys were trying to connect it. It was tough. It was really low, and then it went out, and then it came back, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if they're trying to figure out." For a second, I thought that they were like miking a phone into it and feeding it to you or something, but I don't think that's what was happening.
No. It's just something with that phone line, whatever the technical problem was 29 years ago. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Nothing we can do about it now, is there?
Let's fix it. I do want to give a shout out to Josh from Belmore, who called in asking, where's Jake the Snake, Hercules Hernandez, and Hakeem the African Dream? Because he really liked Hakeem.
Yeah. Well, who didn't?
Yeah. Paul made a crack at Jake, and then the guy also asked, will Sid Justice return to WWF? And Paul goes, I hope so. That'll help me out. No.
Well, it was fun. Fun to get back in the swing of things with this episode, Marsh.
Yeah, it was a cool one. It was fun. It was low key, and I still feel like it was loaded.
Yeah. And we got another one next week is going to be pretty good. We have Cactus Jack. We have
classic
Paul E back because that's when Sabu breaks his neck against Chris Benoit. So that will be reviewed next week. And also Rich Mancuso, the guy who hosted the WFAN show. Do you know much about Rich Mancuso?
No, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
No.
He was a guy that at 3 a.m. every Saturday into Sunday morning on the Jody McDonald show on WFAN sports radio, 50,000 watts, would do a wrestling segment for an hour. And every question was kind of made up. Like every answer was kind of like, well, where's, every week he said Sting was going to the WWF. Every week he, where's this guy? Oh, he's up in Canada. He's So he would just come up with stuff, but he had a huge audience. And people listened to it. So he makes an appearance on the show, and we saw eye to eye sometimes, and sometimes we did not. And he always tried to get into business with me. And so it'll be an entertaining, and I didn't even know he was on the show until I uploaded it. And I heard, because he wasn't even on the written description of the tape on the cassette. All it was saying was Paul E, Cactus, Sabu injury. And Rich wasn't even on there.
Was he in
when I
the
heard
studio?
it. No, he called in.
Okay. Yeah.
And here's the other part of it, just a kind of a precursor or spoiler. A lot of calls that called while Rich was on were kind of planted like friends of his.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it'll be fun to review that next week.
That's going to be great, because he's called in one other time because he asked you to plug if he could plug his show, and you said go ahead.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like much of a conversation. But
keep it in the ring was his final line every week. Keep it in the ring. Like, what were you supposed to do other than keep it in the ring?
Well, the guy's going outside the ring. He's trying to ref it. I'm going to steal that line. Instead
Keep
of doing
it in the
last
ring.
call on my show, I'm going to start doing keep it in the ring.
There you go. Make a T-shirt up too, and once you get one of them spittle bottles that you have on the back wall there with Taz, and come up with the "Keep It in the Ring" spittle.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm in a freaking crazy mood tonight. I mean, I am.
That's gonna be good. Is this gonna be Cactus's last episode with you?
I believe so.
I
believe so.
All right. I knew we had another one after the last one. I just don't remember if we had two.
Yeah, we have him, and boy, then we have, the Bob Ortons. We cover Art Barr's tragic death, Public Enemy. Missy Hyatt comes back. Mikey Whipwreck, Tommy Dreamer, and then we have Eddie Guerrero.
That'll be cool.
Meltzer, and I don't even know who's on the very last show. January 20th, 1995. All it is say PWS 12095. I don't know who's on it. All I know is the last show. It didn't even have a case.
I bet you it was the best of.
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm so curious to listen to it, but I'm not going to.
No, wait. You gotta wait.
Christmas is coming. I might as well, give myself an early Christmas gift and listen to it when, right before Santa comes down that chimney.
Yeah. I'm excited. We'll get through it, and then we'll revamp and readjust, and we'll start over.
Yeah. I wish we could do like an AI, since AI is so prominent today. I wish we could actually do an AI version of George from Lindenhurst and have conversations with him.
Like a little bot that would respond?
Yes. They do it on the, I've heard it now on, I listen to WFAN for the sports content, and Evan Roberts and Tiki Barber, who was a famous New York Giant, potential Hall of Famer legend. They have a segment every Thursday they call Bad Tiki, and it's an AI voice of Tiki Barber who just insults everybody, and it's really wild. So we got to figure out a way. How do we get an AI generated voice of George from Lindenhurst so we could have conversations with him when we start revamping all of this?
Well, the voice isn't that tough. That's the response that really, there's a really good chance that what they're doing is scripting it out.
Oh, and they just have the voice read it.
Yeah.
That's something to look into.
We could do that. For sure, I could do that.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be neat?
Yeah,
like Joey from North Babylon. We just have conversations with Joey from North Babylon. Maybe AI has a purpose after all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, because they did that stuff on Twitter with the Gorilla Monsoon thing, right?
Yeah, but that was all scripted, yeah.
That's all scripted, and they had the Vince Russo and the Cornette and Bobby Heenan and Monsoon. I love that. So if we could do something like that, that would be an interesting thing to kind of to do on this program as we kind of segue into what our next reincarnation is. And if we can incorporate AI into it, I mean, we're just spitballing here in real time.
What if on the top of the show, like the way you used to do on the top of the ads. This is Paul Heyman. You're listening to Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
Yeah.
What if it was different colors? Hey, this is a Joey from North.
Yeah. I want to have conversations with them, though. I want to go back in time and I want to say things to George from Lindenhurst that I never really said. I want to apologize to him for all the times I cut him off and hung up on him.
Nice.
John Anthony, I have to ask you a question. Anyway, let's figure out a way to do that, Marsh. Let's put that on the to-do list for 2024.
There you go. Yeah,
all right.
It.
That's it. I'm talking my ass off here tonight. It must be all the coffee I drank today.
Well, you were allowed to.
I made up for it because I couldn't have it, 29 years ago. So I drank extra coffee today.
Yeah. See, I allow you to drink coffee in the booth now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But no crackers.
No crackers.
No crumbs.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. That wraps up this show, and tell everybody out there what you've been up to, what you're doing, where your podcast has landed, all these things that are happening in your life.
Yeah, it's been good. I'm over there at youtube.com/Queen of Carnage. Obviously, every week with you, youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Spotlight. But at WrestlingOnTheRocks.com, we've made it over to First Fan Sports Network. And so now we're going through them on our audio platform. We still do live recordings Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
We release it now through audio through Fans First, and it's really cool.
Fans First is a platform that has not just a few wrestling shows on it, but it also has a number of different sports podcasts there, from baseball to all other sports. I've seen their site, and it looks pretty impressive. So I wish you the best over there.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised that they were looking for wrestling content, and they thought we might be a good fit. So we're giving it a go.
Yeah, maybe we'll join you there next year.
Yeah, maybe so. We'll see. But I'm liking it. So yeah, follow me over there. You can find me on Threads. I've been doing more Threads than X nowadays. Marsh Ref.
Yeah, Threads is happening.
Yeah, it's just
I got almost 700 followers on Threads now, because every time I post on Instagram, I'm posting on Threads too.
Oh, there you go.
Very seamless.
Okay, that's what I have to click on then.
It's a little link. It's in your profile on Instagram, and you just click it and you're on Threads.
All right, I got to do that then. But yeah.
All right, my friend. We'll see you again next week. And that will wrap up this edition, the welcome back edition after a few weeks off the air of John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Join our groups. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram at John Arezzi. I'm on Twitter and Threads at John Arezzi. Our YouTube channel. Go there. Subscribe to it. YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling Spotlight. My book is still available. If you'd like a copy of that, autographed, numbered, just send me an email, john@mattmemories.com. I'll be putting more up on eBay shortly as well. And don't forget to check out the sister podcast that I do. It's Matt Memories from Madison Square Garden, covering all the shows I covered from the Mecca of all arenas 50 years ago. And the next show is going to feature the night Bruno Sammartino came back and won that WWF title against Stan Stasiak. This took place on December the 10th of 1973. Matt Memories from Madison Square Garden is co-hosted by Tim Poutre, written and researched by Richie Garcia. I want to thank our producer and creative director, Marsh. I want to thank our Patreon executive producers, Anthony Pyrus and Joe Holloway, and to all the patrons for keeping us on the air, because you're helping with the production costs for this show at $5 a month. Go there, patreon.com/John Arezzi. Until next week, when we relive more history with you, this is John Arezzi for the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.